everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Paula here. It's definitely been a while since I've done a sit down video. I think the last time was probably around November or October last year, but this is a new year and I definitely want to get back to the habit of uploading in YouTube because it's one of my favorite things to do, recording and reading and editing and then posting. So I had a lot of plans for January, but because of my situation, I was back home, but I was still working full-time online. It was just very complicated and I just didn't have the time to be recording. But I am back in Las Palmas. I am back working in person. So I still don't have that much time working full-time, but I have enough time to do videos like these. And today I'm bringing you a favorite TBR. I feel like I've only done a couple of TBR videos in my channel. And I'm not gonna lie, it's mostly because I am so bad at sticking with TBRs. I always mood read, and I feel like at the beginning of the month, at least when I was doing my regular YouTube videos last year, I was already planning which books to read for every video, so it felt very forced to me to be doing that because I would do videos like reading non-fiction for a week, so I knew exactly what books I was reading and I was kind of forcing myself to read them even if I was not feeling them. But this year I'm decided that I am only gonna mood read. I'm not doing any specific videos with specific like genres or books. I'm just gonna mood read and see what I'm feeling, but I do have an idea of what I want to read in February, so I thought I would do a TBR video slash hopefuls to get through this month, especially because I have mentioned in a couple of videos that are coming out soon, but this is gonna be the first one coming out. I think I am in the middle of a book buying ban. And this year I'm taking it seriously, like so seriously. I know I said last year that I had a book buying ban, but I made so many exceptions to it that I just never ended up sticking to it. But this year I am. So all of the books that I'm reading are within my bookshelves, or at least within my bookshelves back home. I am fortunate enough that I do have Kindle copies for those books that I have at home, so I can choose and pick from here and still make progress with that even if I'm not physically there. Yeah, I think the intro has been a little bit long, so let's start talking about the books that I want to read in February. Now in January I was really feeling the fantasy mood, and I'm very glad because I haven't touched fantasy in so long. So I was mostly reading fantasy books for the whole of January, and February for me personally, it just screams classics. There's something about February that just makes me want to read classics. It's probably because of the gloomy, cold weather. It just fits. I'm a very seasonal reader, mood reader, so I feel like I like matching my books to my seasons and however I'm feeling. And there's this book that I've been very excited to read since I got it as a gift last year, and I feel like February is just the perfect month for it. And yes, it is a classic, and that classic is a chunk. I feel like this time last year I read The Count of Monte Cristo, which was like 100 and something pages. Well, this year in February I'm gonna be reading The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky, which is also roughly 1,000 something pages. I am so excited. I got this book for my birthday last year by my friends and I was so excited. I don't know much about this book, honestly. I know that one of my favorite YouTubers hated it so much. That is Bella from Throne of Pages. She just did not like this at all. But then another of my favorite booktubers really loved it, which is Emmy. For the most part, I've heard great things about this. I know this is kind of a detective story in some sorts. It's about these three sons and their father is murdered. So the brothers Karamazov follow the trial where they try to find out who's the one that killed their father. And it just goes through much more than that. It goes through religion and spirituality. So I'm very excited to read it, even though it is a chunk. This copy is actually in Spanish and it is 1,131 pages. But I don't know, I'm just very excited to read this. I'm also very curious to get back into reading Dostoevsky because the only thing that I've read of him was White Nights, which, unlike this, was a very short book. It was like 80 something pages and I loved it. I've heard that that book is Dostoevsky at its most romantic and dreamer self, and I could definitely see that. I love that so much. but I've also heard so many great things of his other novels. I actually have Humiliated and Insulted up here because I also want to read that one. So yeah, I feel like this year for me is gonna be the Dostoevsky year. So yeah, this is the first book that I'm planning to read in February. Now, another classic that I want to read in February, because again, I feel like February is just a month for classics, is Little Women. I have my copy of Little Women back home, and I tried to start it last year in December, but there was just so much going on, I just didn't get to it. And I know that it's very seasonal, like it starts during Christmas time. And I don't know, I just feel like it's the perfect time for me to read it. So Little Women by Louisa May Alcott is the story of these 4 sisters, I believe, and just how their lives go from childhood to adulthood. I know that at the beginning we start with, again, it's Christmas time, the family doesn't have as much money anymore, they're kind of struggling financially, and also their father is at war, so of course there's that added worry for him. I don't know, I've never actually read the book, but fun thing about me is I love the Geronimo Stilton books when I was little, so I did read the Geronimo Stilton version of Little Women, and that one was kind of wild because it was obviously for children, so they skipped a lot and they ignored some of the big plot points of the book. Because then a couple of years ago I watched the movie that came out with Timothée Chalamet and Emma Watson. And actually watching that movie, I realized that I was lied to by Geronimo Stilton because I thought that book had like a complete happy ending for one of the characters. It does not. So yeah, I feel like I kind of know where I'm going into, but I'm so excited to actually start it and read it. Also, it's one of the books that has been the longest in my TBR. I think I got it for Christmas in 2021. Also excited to be getting that off of my physical TBR. Okay, now moving on from the classics, I am still wanting to read more fantasy, and there's this book that I'm kind of in the middle of. I'm like less than 30% in, that I started last year, and I really want to get to it because I loved the first book. That is The Two Towers by Tolkien. So this is my copy of the 3 books, The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and The Return of the King. And you can see I definitely read the first book. The first book is read. I read it last year around September, I believe, and I loved it so much. The only thing that I did have to say, it felt slow at times, and I feel like that is a very common comment across everyone that has read this book, is that The Fellowship of the Ring can be a bit slow because there's so much walking. But then I started The Two Towers and I was enjoying it so much. It felt like it had a little bit more action than The Fellowship of the Ring, and I enjoyed that part a little bit more. So again, so excited. The Lord of the Rings follows Frodo as he is tasked this mission of destroying a ring. I'm trying to be very loose about it because like everyone knows the Lord of the Rings, but I don't want to talk much about The Two Towers because again it's the second book in the trilogy. We're definitely still in the middle of that quest. So yeah, that is another book that I want to read in February. Sticking with fantasy, and this is more of a hopeful rather than part of the TBR. It's a book that I would like to get to in February, but I won't be mad if I don't get to it this month and I can just read it next month, and that is The Ministry of Time. I've heard great things about it from YouTubers that I watch, and it just sounds so interesting to me. So basically it's about this girl, don't know the name, don't ask me, I barely read synopsis, okay? So this is what I've heard the book is about, and it's about this girl that works for the government, and they tell her that she needs to participate in this kind of program to essentially make refugees adapt to their life in, I'm not sure where they are, but basically to adapt to new lives in the country that they're from. The catch is that those refugees don't come from other countries, they actually come from the past. So that's all I know about this book, literally that's all. And I am very excited to read because I've again heard great things. It doesn't have that much of a good rating in Goodreads, but trusting Goodreads with ratings might not always be the best. I just heard from people that I trust that it's a really good book, especially from Emmy. She raved about this book. She did say there was a couple of things that were a little bit off, but she actually really loved that book. I think it was like her favorite book of last year. So again, very excited to read that one. The next book that I plan to read in February, and this one I will definitely get to because I have this goal. I want to read every month at least one classic and at least one non-fiction book. So this book that I want to read is Bittersweet by Susan Cain. I feel like I've talked about this book again in my vlog because I bought it last year in like a bookstore vlog, and it's basically how to handle grief and how to make positive things come out of it. And again, I'm still in my grief journey. I don't think I will ever be out of it. Every day is always hard after losing my mom, so I'm still interested in books that deal with grief, and this one seems like a good non-fiction to get to. Again, I've heard mixed reviews about it, but I'm excited to start it. Now, going up to the two last books of my TBR, I have The Spirit Guides Through Water by Simon Jimenez. This book, I know absolutely nothing about. Nothing. And you will ask, Paula, why are you reading it then? I'm reading it for a book club, and I told myself that I wanted to read every book that we were reading for my book club for the whole year, because last year I almost did it, but there were two that one that I DNF'd and one that I skipped. So I want to make sure that this year I do try to read all of them again. So The Spirit Guides Through Water. I know nothing about it. I just know that it's fantasy and that it's queer. And as of right now, I feel like that's everything I need. I feel like that sounds good enough for me to try and get into it. I'll probably read the synopsis before reading it, but I'm okay with putting this in my TBR because, again, I do want to read it because it's part of my book club, and I really enjoy talking about these books with the fellow people in the book club. So it's always very interesting to see everyone's opinions on it. So I'm still gonna read it. And then the last book that I want to read in February, this one is again one of my hopefuls, and I don't have a physical copy of it. And I told myself I only wanted to read books from my physical TBR, but these, I might make an exception for it because it's the second book in a quartet. Okay, let me tell you first what this book is. This book is Winter by Alice Smith. If you've seen my videos lately, last year in November more or less, I read Autumn by Alice Smith, and it's basically a quartet divided by seasons. So we have autumn, winter, spring, and summer. And since I started Autumn last year, I feel like this year during February, I want to read Winter. Again, this is a hopeful because it's not on my physical TBR. I kind of want to give priority to the other ones, but if it happens that I have time to read this one, I would really like to get to it. So I liked Autumn. It was definitely not my favorite book ever, but it was very interesting to read for the first time Alice Smith's writing, and I did really like her style. It felt a bit confusing at times, but in a good way. So yeah, if I do have time this month, I would like to get to Winter by Alice Smith. So out of all of these books, I only have two of them physically, but these are all the books I want to try and read in February. Again, this is a very loose TBR. I want to get to these, but if at some point I just feel like I want to read something else and not these ones, I will do it. I am not gonna force myself to read books that I'm not in the mood for like I did last year, because it put me in a slump. It would put me in a slump for weeks, and I would not want to read anything, and then I would just like consume like really bad romance novels for weeks on end just because I wanted things that were fun and easy and not make my brain work, which it's not something that I'm proud of. It's not something that I like to do. So I want to be more intentional with my reading, and part of that means reading what I want to read and not forcing myself to read books that I'm not feeling. So yeah, these are the books that I want to read this month. Please let me know if you've read any of these or if you have any of these on your own TBR. I am very excited for all of them, but again, there are books that I have not heard many opinions of, especially The Spirit Guides Through Water. I feel like I haven't heard anything about that book at all. So if you have, please let me know in the comments. I would love to know your opinion. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you've lasted this long, thank you so much. You're an angel. Please like and comment. I always love hearing from you. And if you like book related / vlog videos, definitely subscribe to my channel, because that's what I'm intending to do this year properly. Because last year it was chaos, but this year I'm definitely trying to stick more with our routine and upload more book related videos and vlogs in my life, especially reading vlogs. So yeah, if you like that type of content, please subscribe. That will make my whole day. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye!